Hi, this is John Visconti. Well, today I'm delving into the death card, the fearful death card. The death card symbolizes a time of new beginnings and transformation. Death card is number 13 in the major arcana. It follows the sacrifice of the hanged man. The death card is arguably the most iconic card in tarot. It's even recognized by lay people unfamiliar with tarot, and it's often displayed in movies and is instantly recognizable. Well, change is inevitable. Change in life and old stories must end before new stories begin. For one door closes before another door may open. Death card may indicate a need to let go of aspects of your life that are holding you back, whether they involve emotions, beliefs, careers, or relationships, etc. Most tarot readers know the death card does not represent actual physical death, although it certainly can represent actual physical death. And the death card merely means the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. So death means a transformation will occur. Transformation is necessary in life. And death first begins with transition, the actual art of dying, or the first thought of change, and that evolves into transformation. If we look at the Smith-Waite card here, it's a very classic card. It's probably the most recognizable death card. And we notice death is one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. We see a skeletal figure with an armor. And now, the skeleton represents the last of the physical body. It's what remains after the flesh is consumed. And the armor represents that death is impenetrable. You can't beat death, death will come. Now, the skeleton is holding a black flag with a white rose. It's a five-pointed white rose. And white represents purity, and also the horse is white. And what we see going on in this card is a lot of different elements. We see a king is lying. I believe he's perished. His crown is off his head. A king represents ego and power and greed and other physical attributes. We also see a bishop, or perhaps a pope, and he's pleading with death. He's trying to bargain with death, although he will not succeed, but that is what the pope appears to be doing. We have a sleeping maiden. She's head turned away, trying to defy death. Trying to discount death and ignore it. She vainly appeals to death to let her live. Her vain attempt will not succeed. However, the innocent child, offers a gift to death. The innocence of the child does not know what death brings. If it brings change, the child recognizes change and accepts it. Okay? We also see a river here, and we have a boat going through the river. The river indicates new beginnings. It also can represent eternity. And the boat represents a journey into a new life, a new birth, a rebirth even. So we also see two pillars here, and the pillars are the pillars of Hermes, and we see a rising sun rising up between the two pillars, and we see a some type of a city or town before the rising sun. So this indicates rebirth and new life. And this is the Smith-Waite death card. And I'm going to be showing you over 80 cards, each number 13, the death card, mostly from tarot decks, but also some oracle decks, which I thought will apply to this video. Well, I'm going to begin. Our first card is the Visconti Forza, and this card was done about 1440 to 1460, and you notice Death has a bow, and you'll see very few cards where Death actually has a bow. There's only a few of the 80-some cards I will show you that actually portray with a bow. Of course, before gunpowder was popular and utilized, the bow was representative of death. We also see a white ribbon, the ribbon of truth, atop Death's head. We don't see, in this card, we don't see any human elements at the bottom, but that is the Visconti Forza. Another Visconti card, this is in the Carriero Museum. We do see Death on horseback. We do see a scythe, and we do see the typical kings and other people here at the bottom of the card. So this card really started it all. In fact, just a few years later, the Gregoire tarot deck, also known as Charles VI, we see Death on a black horse. We see the ribbons. He's holding a limb, a branch. I don't see a scythe, but there could be. Maybe my eyes can't catch it. And so we see, again, we see royalty, we see kings and commoners, and Death conquers all. So there he is. If you want a clear picture of the Gregoire card, this is the Tarot of the Renaissance, Golden Tarot of the Renaissance, also known as the Ascensi Tarot. And here we see Death in greater detail. There's his scythe. And we see a ribbon upon his head and also upon his waist. And here we see more clarity at the bottom. We see the king and other religious folks and commoners at the bottom. So if we go on about 10 to 20 years after that, we encounter the Solabusca Tarot. And here we see Death is number 13, but some people dispute if this is actually a death card in the Solabusca. We do see a long, I guess that's a pole or something, piercing a decapitated head on the ground. Other people feel that this Solabusca card actually represents Death more than the other card. This Roman character here has something to do with death. And we also see a skull perched upon that short column there. If we go into more modern decks now, I'm going to present this as a lot of Grim Reaper, skeletal figures. This is the Metelli Tarot. And what's interesting about this is that we see an hourglass. And the hourglass only appears in a few decks, either old decks or newer decks. It only appears a few times. But we see the scythe, and the skeleton just stands there and faces us. And he's saying, your time may be up. Okay, this is the Lombardi Tarot. And here Death is with the scythe. And he has a red cloak draped upon him. This is the Lombardi Tarot. Okay, we go into Marseille. Marseille, the death is facing right. And here we see, in typical Marseille fashion, we see different things going on, a couple of heads and some vegetation there. And that's Marseille. Now, a copy of Marseille is the Severo tarot card. This is woodblock printing, as you can see. And it was a step up from either simple illustrations and also the cumbersome part of painting, hand painting every card we have with the Visconti decks. So this is woodblock and pretty much copies Marseille. Okay, this is the Vachetta tarot, and this is a very very vibrant colors on this. And you can see the printing is starting to get more evolved here. But here we see some items here, religious items and so forth, at the bottom. I see an axe there. We also have the river and the boat. River represents eternity or a new voyage. And we also have a little outcropping there of rocks. So interesting card. This is the Vandenbora tarot, and here death faces left, and it's pretty much a real basic death card. I do see some flowers here, and it's interesting pastel colored deck. This is the 1JJ Swiss. Death is facing left again, and very prominent with his scythe there. And this is when printing was getting even more evolved on the 1JJ Swiss, shortly, not too much before Smith Waite. Okay, here we have Grand Italia tarot. Grand Italia, and interesting card. We have a large bird here, death with his scythe, and just basic, I don't know what these buildings are here, but they could be monuments or grave sites, I'm not sure. But that's our Grand Italia. And we have another Italia deck released, 20 or 30 years after. And this is the Book of Thoth Italia deck. Not to be confused with Crowley's Thoth Tarot, completely different. But this is the Book of Thoth Tarot Italia, and we simply see death with a red garment upon him. And he's dancing around. He's having a good time, I guess. Hey, another close Marseille copy is Oswald Worth's Tarot. And this was shortly before, roughly contemporary of Smith Waite. But it's very conventional Marseille type of artwork. Hey, this is the Menkiate Tarot. I love this card. We have death here, and he's got interesting expression upon his face. Very large scythe. Now, the horse is skeletalized, at least the skull is skeletalized. I think that's very unique. And here death is on a mission, and he's galloping away to eternity. Okay, this is the Soldato Tarot. This is a relatively new deck. Or it could be, I think it's an older deck, but it's a newer recreation of it. And it looks like woodblock printing. And that's Soldato. Okay, then we have La Corte. We have another skeletal figure with a large scythe. And we do see some basic artwork on the bottom there with looks like a head and feet of the subject. Okay, then we have, this is from the game of tarot. This is a Bolognese tarot deck. And this was a game where the cards are not reversible. And it's a game of tarot, not to be confused with divination, but it could probably be used for divination. Hey, this is the Old English tarot. And here, very clever artwork on this deck. It's a newer deck. I think it's a 20th or 21st century here. But here we see Death in a ragged attire with a very large scythe. Okay. This is the Pagan Otherworlds tarot. I like this card. I think it's very, I can't say colorful, but I think the artwork is really cool. Here we see Death. We see a number of arrows, and I'm looking for his bow, but I can't see it. But he does have a quiver there with quite a few arrows in it. And we see a head and a hand at the bottom. Okay, next we have the Golden Dawn tarot. Okay, this is a newer recreation. The original Golden Dawn deck, I believe, is lost. It's just you can't find copies of it. But this is a recreation of what they thought the Golden Dawn tarot may have been like. And we see your conventional heads at the bottom. We do see a serpent in the upper right-hand corner with a bird on top of that. Quite interesting. This is the medieval Scapini tarot. And we see Death, and I believe that's a bow he's holding there. And it's an interesting deck. Scapini did some interesting artwork in this tarot deck. But that's medieval Scapini. This is the Karma tarot. This is a 1980s deck, one of the first decks I bought. And it's the Karma tarot. And we just see Death here with the scythe and the body parts and a bird perched upon him. Okay. Now I'm going back to Smith-Waite. This is a PVC deck. A lot of people don't like it because they're slippery cards. But I included it just because the way it shimmers and shows high definition of colors. Another colorful Smith-Waite copy is the Winter Waite tarot. This is the glitter edition. They put the glitter on the cards and they varnish them. This is available in the UK. So pretty much Smith-Waite all the way. Okay, another Death card on a horse here. The Modern Witch tarot. A lot of people like this deck because it's fully colored in and it's easier to see the detail. And of course, Death is a cloaked figure, a white horse. And all the elements are there. I don't know what this figure is here. It doesn't look like a pope or bishop, but probably, excuse me, probably a religious figure. And here we see the sun rising between the two pillars. This is the Golden Art Nouveau tarot. Here we see a somewhat menacing Death figure there and a white horse. And we see a number of figures at the bottom. We have our conventional king. And we have, I believe that's a man, guarding his child from death. And here's the Pope. And the Pope is pleading with Death, pleading for leniency. And on the left, we see the two towers and a brilliant rising sun. Okay. The Heaven and Earth tarot is a beautiful deck. It does have a lot of grays and browns in it. I like it. We see Death here, typical Death card, borrowed from the Smith-Waite. And we see our typical figures here at the bottom, including a bishop or pope. And everybody's there. You have the king here in the left-hand corner. But very nice deck. We also see the two towers and the sun beginning to rise. Okay. Next we have the Harmony Tarot. Harmony Tarot is a very colorful deck. Menacing, rather menacing looking death figure there with a just jagged scythe there. But that's the Harmony. Okay, we have Tarot of the Renaissance. We have hooded, cloaked death figure here with the scythe. And we have, I believe there's a columns down there. So next I have the Tattoo Tarot. It's a very simple illustrated deck. I guess these actually could be tattoos that you could get. But I like the red ribbon just floating around there. This is an indie deck, independent. It's called the Boo Tarot. A lady in France sells these. She created it. And it's interesting that death is portrayed as a skeleton, and the whole deck is about spirits and ghosts and so forth. So I guess that death came for the ghost. There he is. Okay, this is the Bonefire Tarot. Very colorful, very vibrant deck. Good sized cardstock here. We have a red rose at the bottom. We have the two towers with the rising sun. And an interesting deck. This is Initiatory of the Golden Dawn. It's a darkly colored deck. And that's just the way it is. All the cards are kind of dark, but pretty much hooded Grim Reaper figure with the king and other people at the bottom. This is an interesting deck. This is the After Tarot deck. The After Tarot deck, we see the conventional elements, but the king has long since expired, as has the Pope, and the child even has fallen victim to death. And the grieving maiden is still alive, but she's the only figure left of the four figures there. There's the After Tarot, in which the sun is rising higher. And it's an interesting deck because they show scenes immediately after the regular Smith-Waite deck. So everything's a few moments later, and it's quite unusual. And this is the Jack-o'-lantern Tarot. We have an owl perched upon the scythe. I see a bat hanging upside down, a black horse, and of course, there's jack-o'-lanterns on every card. I do see a figure here, lying here at the bottom, probably a king. This is an interesting death card. This is the Titanic Tarot, and not a lot of collectors have this deck. I liked it, though. I like the vibrance of the sky. Now, notice death is standing upon the iceberg, and Titanic ship has just hit the iceberg, and is slowly going to begin to sink there. But it's just a very dramatic card, particularly if you're a Titanic fan, where death is standing upon the iceberg. Okay, next we have, this is Sexual Magic Tarot. Here, remember I said there won't be too many hourglasses. Well, this is one of the cards with the hourglass right down here. It's also interesting, and it's another bow and arrow card. Here we see a small bow, and we see a quiver here with arrows in it. And we see subjects here, apparently a victim of death. Okay, this is the Archeo Mobius card. This is the Archeo Oracle deck. And it's quite a large card. We see death here. Interesting, he's standing upon a cloud. There's a scythe. I like the artwork on this deck. This is called a Mobius, but it's actually an Ouroboros. We see a dragon here swallowing its own tail. So it's actually an Ouroboros. Hey, this is a Bosch tarot card of death. And this is an actual small portion of the painting that Hieronymus Bosch did. And death is simply portrayed with an arrow. I don't see a bow, but definitely an interesting death. Remember, this is just a small section of a very large painting. Well, here's another Bosch deck I have. Again, we see death with an arrow and a lot of different activity going on. And it's another part of Bosch, or somebody's rendition of Bosch, I might say. Okay, this is the Joie de Vivre. I think I can't pronounce French very well, but Joie de Vivre, and that means cheerful enjoyment of life. It's a rather whimsical deck. Death is portrayed seated upon, it's a bird, but it has a very strange head on it. But that's the Joie de Vivre. Okay, going off on a tangent here, we have the Antique Anatomy Tarot. And we have 3 skulls impaled on the scythe. And have 2 more impaled on branches or poles on the other side. The deck incorporates a lot of flowers and things like that, much like my skull here has. Okay, the Mind's Eye Tarot, kind of an abstract death. It's kind of an abstract artwork on the card here. And we see the torso and the arms of death. And I see a face here, of course, a death there. And a flower there, a white rose. And we have these little eye things going on here. This is the Cat's Tarot. And the Cat's Tarot, well, the cat is here. He's wearing a skeleton mask and a skeleton suit. It's kind of a whimsical deck. I'm trying to think of the name of the lady that did this. Somebody Wan, Mary Wan or something like that. I don't know. Okay, a unique death card is the Mr. Punch Tarot. Comically tragic or tragically comic Mr. Punch. And it's an interesting card because Mr. Punch is a puppet. And he is terrified of another puppet dressed as a ghost. Okay? And then we have another puppet down, a small puppet down here, dressed as death. And we also have a severed head, a puppet head, down here at the lower left. Interesting. We also have a clock. Quite an interesting deck if you're into, just kind of into puppets and things of that time period. Okay, here, Patrick Valenza, this is his tarot, Della Luna tarot. And Patrick created a skeleton with a sword through its head, and there's a drop of blood coming out. I don't know how a skeleton could have blood in it, but there it is. And it's an interesting and quite whimsical deck. This is the Italian version. Okay, here I have Trick or Treat Tarot. And this is a figure as a Mary Lloyd. It's a Welsh figure with a horse's skull, and usually with clothing draped upon a staff or something, and they hold it up. And here, what's interesting about this card is death is extending a white rose to the child. Instead of the child offering death a bouquet, death is offering the child a white rose. And the child is rather apprehensive about accepting it, I would say. But it is trick-or-treat night, so she may or she may not accept it, and I don't know what the outcome would be if she accepts it. I love the gorgeous sky in the background. Okay, more Patrick Valenza. This is Deviant Moon. And here, almost looks like another Mary Lloyd figure. We have a horse's skull, but we do have a body, and the body is pregnant, but the foot is perched upon a child here. And we have a very polluted background. Of course, Deviant Moon is now a classic deck. Okay, let's see where I'm at here. Oh, Slavic Legends. This is Slavic Legends. A lot of detail going on. The horse is a skeletalized head. We have a human death figure with a horned helmet. So quite a deck. Okay, this is the Prisma Tarot. Prisma Tarot, we have a simple skeletal hand holding a white rose. Interesting deck. Santa Muerte Tarot. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a little Santa Muerte figurine here. But it's an interesting deck. It's Day of the Dead celebration in Mexico, pretty much. But there it is. Okay, we're getting into Thoth here. Crowley's Thoth deck. I'm not too familiar with Thoth. I bought it because I didn't have one, but here we see death. We see a serpent or snake down here and a fish. And there's a lot going on in Thoth's decks. So I don't know if you folks have that, but it's an interesting deck. Now, kind of not a copy, but heavily influenced by Thoth is the Tarot of the Spirit deck. And you can see some of the Thoth elements in this deck. And death being one of the cards that represents that. Hey, this is the Magical Dogs Tarot. And here we have a figure, Egyptian figure is called Anubis. It's a dog's head on a human body. Now, Anubis is a guide to the underworld and a protector of graves. And if you look closely, this is the spirit of a dog. This is the dog's soul. And you see the dog lying here at the bottom. You see his old decrepit body, and his spirit is rising up. And Anubis is assisting him. Now, I'm going to make a comment here that all animals, are spiritual beings, as are humans. So we all go into an afterlife. And we meet many of our pets, and we can associate with other animals on the other side. So that's what's going on there. And animals can be reincarnated also. It's not just humans. Okay, this is the Steampunk Tarot. And I have a lady here, a lady death, on a brown horse, a large scythe. But this card, we just have a gentleman here in the background, and he's at a gravesite, perhaps his wife or somebody he knows close to him, and he has a red rose in his hand. I also see a pillar here, and I believe probably a monument, a grave monument, but another one here looks like. Interesting card. Okay, this is the Yuletide Tarot, and this is the Scrooge, almost a Scrooge scene with Ghosts of the Future. Ghosts of the Future here, and he's pointing down. Look here, we see the rose crown. I don't know if that's a tavern or what, but there's a little white rose here on this side, and we have a wreath going on. And my dog is bumping into my camera, so you have my tripod, you have to excuse me. My dog, by the way, is 18 and a half. If he lives 6 more months, he'll be 19. Unbelievable, but he's doing okay. This is the Ghost Tarot, and it's just all the figures on the Ghost Tarot, apparitions and spirits and so forth. So, of course, you'd have a Grim Reaper type figure on the Ghost Tarot. Next, I have the Star Tarot. This is the Star Tarot. We're following along the lines of Cloaked Grim Reaper once again. I don't know if this is a phoenix rising or what, but that bird there is in the foreground. Very colorful deck. This is called the Witch's Tarot. It's another PVC deck, which just explodes in color in the light, by a company called Kino. And this is the Metaphysical Marijuana deck. It's actually an oracle, but it follows the majors follow the major arcana of the tarot. And the rest of it is, it has 78 cards, but they call it an oracle. Here we see Death here bearing a scale. So it's almost an element of justice here. I find that quite interesting because Death could well be justice, could implement many of justice's virtues. Okay, this is Pagan, the Pagan Tarot. And here we have, I believe she might be a witch, and she's being blindfolded, and she may be about to be burned at a stake. I think that is what may be going on. But notice the monarch butterfly leaving her hand and taking flight. Here we have a monarch here. And remember that death is a transformation. You must first transition, and that's the actual art of dying, and then you transform, much as the butterfly begins life as a caterpillar, and then transitions out of the caterpillar body and emerges and transforms into the butterfly. Hey, next we have the U.S. of Tarot. U.S. of Tarot, we have a KKK Ku Klux Klan person with the Confederate flag. So kind of a rough card, you know. It's kind of very negative. But that's the U.S. of Tarot. That's the death card. Hey, this is the, excuse me 1 second here, I gotta think. Oh, medieval tarot. Interesting card. We have a lady here. She's primarily naked here, and death is kneeling at her side on a red pillow. And the artwork is really something in this deck. But I never seen a death card quite like this, where death is kneeling in front of the person he's visiting. Okay, we got Tarot of the Vampires, okay? In this deck, we have this young lady here, and she's the Fool. And she begins her journey, and she encounters this guy right here who's a vampire. And he's offering her a flower. I think it's a white rose at the beginning there in the Fool card. And here, what's happened, this is a card of transformation. She was a human, and he has bit her upon her neck, and she is transforming into a vampire. So quite an unusual transformation card. Another transformation card is the Art Revival Tarot. The Art Revival Tarot, we see a man kneeling in front of an angelic being representing death. So it's a unique deck if you're into classic artwork. This is the Wizard's Tarot. Okay, Wizard, we have another winged being here. Handsome couple here. We got a man, and he's believe he's dancing with the lady. Another transformation card. So we go from Grim Reaper to transformation. We also include some death upon horseback. So you get to see the major representations of death in this presentation. True Black Tarot. I have a figure here. I believe he's holding a key. And notice how when you turn the card, how it kind of like glistens, you know, it's a very unique deck. It's got a rubbery type of feel to it. And a lot of, you really need to read the book that comes with it, which is quite sufficient. But here we see death pouring blood, running down close to a lily at the bottom, a lily flower. Okay. Okay. Next I have Universe Tarot, another winged creature here. AI, it's an AI deck. So, you know, it was created partly by computers. So you've seen them before, and it's very colorful. I thought I'd include it. Okay, next up is the Romantic Tarot. Romantic Tarot has roses on the back, but here we have, looks like a widow, perhaps, in Victorian times, maybe. And she's putting a red wreath at a gravesite. But that's the death card in Romantic Tarot. Okay, here I have the Botticelli. And here it looks like some type of maybe religious scene, maybe Mother Mary with Jesus. Implication. I haven't seen all of Botticelli's work, but I believe he incorporated a lot of religious themes. And somebody took his, just like they did with Bosch, they took small scenes of his paintings and just enlarged them, cropped them and enlarged them. Interesting card. And speaking of Bosch, here's another Bosch card. Bosch painting, rather, the tunnel here with the figures entering into the tunnel with the light at the end. Very reminiscent of classic NDEs, near-death experiences, which I've been researching for over 30 years, along with EVP and ITC, or instrumental transcommunication. But here we have, this is my favorite part of a Bosch painting. This is the Ascent of the Blessed. And the deck this is from is Influence of the Angels. And that's the back of it right there. Very, very nice deck, Influence of the Angels. I highly recommend that one. Okay, more transformation going on here. We have Everyday Enchantment by Poppy Palin, who unfortunately we lost. She transitioned into spirit 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. But here we have an interesting transformation card. We have a grandmother here, and she's talking to her granddaughter. And we have a lot of interesting elements in this card. There's a very small fairy-type figure right here. And then we have an apparition of a female ghost, or spirit, I should say. And we have Blackbird there and a couple more at the top. Poppy Palin put a lot of interesting messages into her artwork. And also, you really need to read her guidebook. It's a phenomenal guidebook. Okay. Next, we have Lemuria Oracle. Okay. I threw this in there because it has transformation at the bottom. And this oracle just has a lot of interesting artwork. And transformation card is one of them. Another transformation card. I've got the Good Tarot. And you see a young girl here. And there's something type of orange energy here coming out of her hands. But that's the transformation card, number 13, from the Good Tarot. This is a Terrell Decoratif. Just has, a scythe and grim reaper and hands, and it's an interesting art deck if you like that type of artwork. This card, I saw this card, and what happened is I bought this little silver art piece here, okay? And I bought it. I said, I want to get that. I got it. And I looked at it, I said, what deck did that come from? I probably copied it from somewhere. Well, I was going through decks for this project, and this is the Spirit Halloween tarot deck. It's a very inexpensive deck. I think it's like $10. And here's the card, which you can see is they copied the artwork for the silver decoration here. They copied it from this deck. They probably thought, well, Spirit Halloween probably won't sue us for copy infringement, you know, if we use their deck. So, but that's where this piece was inspired from, Spirit Halloween. Hey, next I have a card called the Wild Unknown, and this is the Tinker's Dam Tarot, a very unique deck. And the Wild Unknown, we see a couple people entering into some type of cave or perhaps tunnel, and we have 3 skulls at the top. The Wild Unknown. That's indeed true. Okay, this is the Illuminati Tarot. Very colorful, a lot of detail, a lot of action going on. And we have the rising sun in between the 2 towers. And we have a death figure here with another horned helmet. And it's just a lot of things going on. Another card similar to that, another deck, is a Starman Tarot for David Bowie. And Starman Tarot is, I believe it's mostly AI, you know, but almost too busy to actually do a reading or anything like that with. But that's the Starman Tarot, and very colorful and almost too much going on with that deck, actually. Okay, and next I have the Sirius Tarot. Whoop, that's the back. Sirius Tarot. We have another winged creature at the bottom. We have a skull at the top. Another colorful AI-inspired deck. And wrapping it up, I have the Alchemical Visions. Another very busy deck. I use this the last card because it supports the smaller cards on top of it, so I put it at the bottom. A lot going on here. We have a clock at midnight. We have a hermit type of figure here. We have a cloaked skeletal figure here. We have another down here. I have a soldier here with his armor and his shield. And just a lot of activity going on here. It's a very busy deck, but it's a classic in its own right. But what I would like to do is I would like to make some comments about death. I have researched death for going on 4 decades now, beginning with near-death experiences. And I had my own out-of-body experience as a child. I didn't have a near-death, but I had an out-of-body. And what I want to say is that while we're here in the physical, the reason why we're here in the physical is to experience life from a limiting human perspective. We're limited by our 5 senses, and we go through life. We have to contend with gravity, with food, with money, shelter, you name it, we need it. Now, if we pass out into spirit, we transition into spirit, we find ourselves where we don't contend with gravity, with money, with food, something to drink, clothes. We won't need any of that. There's a lot of love in the spirit world, abundance of love, and we compare the less limited nature of the spirit with a more loving, less limited spiritual realm with a limited and less loving physical incarnation. And then we're able to appreciate the spiritual consciousness, and we can appreciate it because we have something to compare it with. So I think personally, it's my own opinion, but whatever that's worth, I think the meaning of life is appreciative comparison. I'll say it again, appreciative comparison, where we compare the limited physical existence, our limited physical life, with the less limited spiritual life in order to better appreciate the less limited spiritual and more loving. Much like, in order to better appreciate summer, perhaps we must first know winter. We compare summer. If it's summer all the time, it would be like, well, it's summer, okay. But since we go through winter in most climates, I'm not talking about, there's places where it's summer all the time, I'm aware of that. But let's say you're in a cold climate and you can appreciate perhaps summer better having experienced winter, whereas somebody who lives in a warm climate year-round may not appreciate summer as much. So that's all I have to say for today. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. And as always, well, I hope you all love and hope your needs are met and you feel love and you're able to share love with other people. That's one of the most important things of the human incarnation. And anyways, well, I appreciate you sitting through this long video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.